Hi there and welcome. I'm Jordan from the blog Home and Motherhood, and today I am sharing my lichen sclerosus story. I do think it will be broken up into two different parts just because I have two littles at home. I plan on doing one part and then a second to follow next week. If you'd like to see that, please go ahead and subscribe. Before I get into my lichen sclerosus story, I just wanted to preface by saying this is a little bit of a TMI video. So if you're not interested in that, please click off. Also, me sharing my story is just my experiences. It is not meant to scare anyone on their lichen sclerosus journey, but rather to help others not feel alone in what they're going through. I know for me as a child, I felt very alone, that no one knew what I was experiencing and how I was feeling, and how that kind of affects who you are. Not that it controls everything, but anyways, I'll just get right into my story. I was diagnosed when I was 8, but I do believe that my lichen sclerosus was present before then. My mom even reminds me of a story of when I was just 3 and we were out at the store. I, just as innocent little children do, just announced that my vagina was itchy, regardless of the man standing next to me. So I do think that my lichen sclerosus was present before, and it wasn't until I was 8 that more symptoms really came in for me. And how we found out that I had lichen sclerosus was my mom was in the bathroom with me one day and she noticed that there was blood in my panties. She knew that I was too young to get my period. So she took me to the pediatrician. My pediatrician had no idea what was going on. She thought maybe it was a blood blister from falling down or something like that. But she referred me to a gynecologist, and so I went to see a gynecologist that was very highly recommended in our area. But anyways, she wasn't sure really at first either. And at this time, when I was 8, there wasn't a lot of knowledge about lichen sclerosus. It was 1 in 1,000 people had it, and then only 1% of that had it come up when they were children. So it wasn't a well-known thing, and I think it has become more well-known. Pediatricians now know about lichen sclerosus and so on like that. But so my gynecologist at the time did not think it was appropriate, just because of my age and the location of my affected area, to do a biopsy. She compared to pictures with symptoms and all the characteristics, and they all matched up with what lichen sclerosus looked like. So through that appointment, she put me on estrase cream, and I used that for a long time, and the purpose was to hopefully get rid of lichen sclerosus, alleviate the symptoms and the pain. And so I ended up doing a ton of follow-up appointments, and I did that for a really long time. I was always in the doctor's office, because my lichen sclerosus was always present. It was always there. And through the years, I would do switch to clobetasol, tribetazol. I did another one. It was always my lichen sclerosus was just always present. And it would be really severe at times. It would be if I went to the bathroom, if I wiped instead of tapped, I would tear. And just doing normal functions could be really painful for me. I even had permission in school not to run the mile, just because that extra friction, there really wasn't any need for it. Of course, as a child, you don't want to be different from anyone or anyone to know that something's wrong with you, especially how I always felt I don't want anyone to know that I have a broken vagina. And I know that's silly to think, but as a child, you're very self-conscious of that. And so I did the mile with everyone else. I did all the other activities with everyone else. And lichen sclerosus was just kind of my buried thing that no one really knew about. I didn't express to my parents exactly how I was feeling all the time, because over time, nothing was helping me. And so there was no reason to complain about it, is how I felt. And I think that's sad. I think that's sad that I felt very alone in that. But for me, that's what it was. It was daily preventative maintenance, and it never really prevented anything for me. I would tear, or I would get this uncontrollable itch where I could not help but itch myself. And it would be I would itch until I was raw, and I would be bloody, and I would continue to itch because I just couldn't stop. It was unreal. And like I said, like nothing really helped me. There would be moments where I would have like moments of relief in symptoms, or maybe it would last like that for a few weeks, but then it always came back. Like I always had lichen sclerosus, like breakouts. There was even a time, I think I was 10, I think I was around 10. I went to Chicago. My mom was attending a show and I was able to stay where she was, but that was a really bad lichen sclerosus time for me. My breakout was so bad that, you know, it was torn, and like I said, like wiping with toilet paper would like tear me even more, and my skin was raw. And I remember it would be so painful to walk that I would sit on the floor and I would scoot my bum across the floor just so I wouldn't have to move my legs and create any friction in that area. And I kept that to myself. And I think that's sad. I didn't share everything that I was going through and how severe that was because no one understood and no one knew and nothing was helping. Sorry, I feel like this video seems like really down in the dumps about lichen sclerosus, and but like my second half of my story is much more that healing story. But again, this is just me sharing like my experience, and you know, it's over a long period of time, and there were these really low moments for me. But again, like this is not with the purpose to scare anyone. My story actually ends up being pretty uplifting, I think. So thanks for sticking in here with me. I hope it's helpful to you, but I'll just continue. And you know, I also want to share that with my lichen sclerosus, I still was able to do what other kids did. Like I did all the sports, like on all the seasons except for soccer. You know, I was active as a child, and I was also on the cheerleading team. Like you can have a normal life with lichen sclerosus, and I think that's really important for children to know, is like they do not have to be treated different because of lichen sclerosus. I think it's also important to know, like in moments of lichen sclerosus, you can share what you're going through. As a child, I was really embarrassed, and I didn't want anyone to know, and like I just didn't want to be different. Sorry, I don't know why that kind of chokes me up, but it does. I think it was just really hard. I also wanted to share that looking back in my childhood, like I consistently had stomach aches all the time. It'd be like this sharp pain, like in a straight line across my stomach, and like that was really unusual. I was very constipated as a child. Like I even went to get an ultrasound once to like figure out what was this pain in my side, and it was just I was so constipated. But like those are other things that I think you should be aware of with lichen sclerosus. They're a little less known, but you know, it is associated with those symptoms as well. And I really wish that we would have gotten to the root cause of that much earlier, and hopefully I would have, you know, not had to experience as much as I did. But again, I think your experiences like help shape who you are, and I'm grateful. Okay, so continuing with my story, I decided to attend a semester school in California, and my mom took me out there on a special trip like a week early before she had dropped me off at the school, and that was when my very worst lichen sclerosus breakout ever. So this is where it gets a little bit TMI, and for me, like during that time period, like my scars had opened up so bad and they were so raw that like I could fit the first digit of my finger into the affected area, and it was so painful and bloody, and like it just really was a miserable time. Going to the bathroom was extremely painful, and we were in a hotel, and I like screamed when I go to the bathroom, and it was just an extremely embarrassing time period for me. And I just felt like my body was letting me down, and there was nothing I could do about it. We called my gynecologist and told her we were on this trip. She like sent in a prescription for an oral numbing cream to apply in that area, and it was actually extremely helpful, especially when I go to the bathroom. And like I would apply it like everywhere, just so that my pee like had no point of like getting in to that area, because it would sting so bad. But like I said, this was like the worst breakout I've ever had. It was extremely painful. I could not walk. Like, it was just a really hard time for me, and it continued, like this breakout continued for over a month, that until it like finally would slowly heal. And it was almost that whole semester I had this one breakout, and it was extremely painful. I know I keep saying that, but like when I look back on the experience, it just was unreal. And But while I was at that school, they had a doctor sent in to check on some of us kids, and the doctor was like, she was like a hippie, like really nice, holistic-minded lady, and she suggested that I do the sitz baths with lavender and tea tree oil, and that was really soothing to me, and I'm so thankful for that. She also suggested like I lay with my legs open in like direct sunlight. I was too shy to do that. Like, I didn't want any chance of anyone walking by a window or anything like that and see me, so I did not do that. But I think there could be some value to doing that if you have a private place. But so like this holistic mindset kind of like started creeping in a bit, and then like even the lady in charge of the school, I forget her title, she wasn't a principal, but something like that. She was previously a nurse, and she had been looking into lichen sclerosus for me, and she found a dietitian that specialized in lichen sclerosus in San Diego, and many people had great results working with the dietitian. I did not end up seeing the dietitian, but that was always in the back of my mind, that food does matter, and I'll share my story later on, and that is what ultimately made the biggest impact in my lichen sclerosus story, was paying attention to specific foods that I would eat. Anyway, so like that was in the back of my mind, like holistic, being like a little more holistic, not using the steroid creams that were, you know, damaging my body over time, and considering like what I would eat. Although I didn't put like all of that into practice yet. So this is really where my story starts moving more towards a healing story. I am going to cut this video here and do another one a different day, but this is where like it finally took a turn towards healing and like getting better results with lichen sclerosus, it coming up less often. But I know this is kind of like the intense, like, oh, that sucks video, but it does get better, and I do hope you stick around for the second half of it, just because it does end positively. I'll be sharing like my experiences with being married, having children, and then like ultimately how I healed my lichen sclerosus, and it hasn't come back in a few years. So please stick around for that. Thank you so much for watching my video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you'd like to see more lichen sclerosus videos. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.